Exactly how good is this recruiting class going to be? I think it's going to be fantastic, but we talked to David Johnson about that coming up after this.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're proud to be a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now it's the #1 sports podcast network in America. That's because of fans like you taking in content like this, and we can't be more appreciative of that. On today's show, we're going to talk about Ole Miss landing a new commit, a top 100 commit in Ben'Jarvius Shoemaker. We talk about the Mississippi class as a whole with the man, David Johnson, who is responsible for knowing all of that stuff. He learns all of the information so you don't have to, and he tells you what's going on. So all of that and more is coming up on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. And a special hello to our everydayers who make the show what it is, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, well, that defines you. Stay tuned this week for highlights of moving the game forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, David. One thing that's interesting about this recruiting cycle, I think this is a situation to where in 2008 or 2007, there were 5 really good players in Mississippi. There's like 15 to 20 right now, and I think it's a situation to where Ole Miss and State, there's finally enough talent to kind of stock both rosters.
Yes, you're exactly right. And, we had a recruiting committee meeting Monday morning. And as we announce our top 25 in the 27 class this week on 365, I mean, the difference in number 20 and number 5 is razor thin, which goes to what you said. This is a very, very good year for football talent in the state of Mississippi, high school football talent in the state of Mississippi. And I think both programs are genuinely going to benefit from that, even though there are some out there who tell you high school recruiting does not matter anymore. Oh, it does. It does tremendously. State and Ole Miss aren't really going to get into fights per se over talent in the state of Mississippi and even beyond, because I go back to the Trinidad Chambliss hearing. Joe Judge is testifying, and Joe is a graduate of Mississippi State. He is an assistant coach at Ole Miss now, and he goes, "Yeah, back when I was at State, one year State would have a great class, and the next year Ole Miss would, and the next year State would. It's not that way anymore. It's Ole Miss up here in Mississippi State all the way down here out of the screen." And that is just the truth. And I'm not trying to be a homer, but credit goes to Walker Jones, Keith Carter, even to some extent Lane Kiffin, that Ole Miss used the portal correctly, executed its NIL dollars correctly, while let's just say others did not. And, I think that's the gap between the two programs right now. And I think that's the gap you're going to see show up this year in in-state and beyond the borders between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I think it's true. I think if State crawls back into this thing, they're going to have to crawl back through the transfer portal, which is going to require them to spend a lot of money, and it's something they haven't done to this point. So, yeah, I mean, Mississippi's loaded this year. It does matter. I promise you it matters. If it doesn't, ask Will Eccles if it matters. Ask Cam Franklin if it matters. Both of those guys, homegrown kids, chose Ole Miss out of high school, and now they're poised on, I think both are poised on becoming perhaps All-American performers for the Rebels on the defensive side of the football. High school recruiting matters. Do not let anybody tell you it doesn't. I get the complexion of things has changed a little bit. You can go out and buy a contender now. We all know that. But part of your roster is going to be made up of those homegrown kids or those kids from Texas or Florida or wherever that come in as true freshmen and make an impact on your program. High school recruiting matters. I don't care what anybody tells you. And you probably know that anybody I'm referring to, it matters.
You know, one thing's interesting. Even if you don't think high school recruiting matters, it's still important to finish in the top 2, because where and how are these kids going to pick their transfer destination? It's usually the school that was the runner-up in high school recruiting after all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Deuce Knight, Caleb Odom, all of those guys that Ole Miss was right there in high school recruiting. The first chance they got, the first time, they's like, hey, we need to move away. Nick Saban's retiring or Hugh Freeze is getting let go. Oh, yeah, Ole Miss is sitting right there, and it becomes a fairly easy decision for the recruit because of all the work that happened in high school recruiting.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And, great point, Deuce Knight. Look, I caught hell at my former network because I wouldn't change my crystal ball from Deuce Knight from Ole Miss to Auburn. I knew Deuce since he was in 8th grade. He came through our camps. I knew how Deuce felt about Ole Miss. And I was gone when it happened, but he's an Ole Miss Rebel now. And I do feel a little bit justified with that crystal ball. But, yeah, I mean, this is it, guys. I mean, and these are as Stephen pointed out, these are your future transfer portal players. I mean, we're going to get to a tipping point. We may already be there where most college football players enter the portal at some point in their career, the majority of them. We're getting there. I don't know if we've tipped the 50% line yet, but it's coming. So it does matter, and it's always going to matter on 365. I promise you that. And, so there you have it. I mean, but as far as Ole Miss's class goes, right now, a really good class. Obviously, the quality of commit Ole Miss now goes after is on the uptick. They've got 3 4-stars and a 3-star in this class right now, which ranks 21st in the nation overall in the industry average. Ben'Jarvius Shoemaker, who we got last week, big time get out of Choctaw County High School. Keegan Croucher, the New York guy who is now in Chattanooga, throwing the ball for the Baylor School, had a huge weekend at the Elite 11 deal over in Atlanta. Jamarcus Pittman out of the city of Memphis, and then J.S. Fleming out of Oxford, Alabama. That's where the class stands right now. But I'm going to tell you, there are some big names that I think are on the verge of committing to Ole Miss. A couple of them who were on campus last week. But, yeah, I mean, high school recruiting matters, folks. Keegan Croucher, future quarterback at Ole Miss. Watch and see.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. We're going to come back with David Johnson in just a second, and we're going to talk about Shoemaker. We're going to talk about Croucher. And also, we're going to talk about Ty Keys, because that's a name that you've been hearing about for a couple of years. We're going to drill down a little bit on that. So coming up after this, more on Mississippi high school recruiting. So stick around. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long and use your sports knowledge in moments that actually matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game. but I never had that dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in market powered by people. You are no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading invoices involve significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. And it's tax time, but for a lot of us, it's the old way of doing taxes, and that's a lot. Trying to book an appointment, that is not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they actually get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing that your taxes are being handled right. So head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Hey, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcatcher you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but keeps all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. If you've been thinking about joining the Everydayer Club, now is the time. I've got the deal for you. Again, you get ad-free shows and access to our group chat on Discord for just $5 a month or $50 per year. But if you are signed up before the NCAA tournament tips off, you can get into our Everydayer Club bracket pool on Discord for a chance to win Locked On merch. It should be fun. I guess it's Merch Madness. Right now, you can use the code MARCH to get your first month free. Head to lockedonolemist.supercast.com or tap the link down in the show notes to learn more. All right, so David, we talked about a little bit what's going on inside the state of Mississippi. One of the players that we have heard about seemingly for 2 or 3 years right now is Ty Keys out of Poplarville. When you look at the top 10 players in the state of Mississippi, Poplarville has 2 players that are sitting on that list. First of all, how good is Poplarville going to be this year? And second of all, Ty Keys, is he the real deal?
Yeah, Ty Keys is every bit the real deal. Listen, this kid's got SEC size right now for a running back. 6'1", 200 pounds. That's verified. Speed, vision, the shiftiness that you need in a running back. This guy's an every down back already. And I think whatever program is lucky enough to get him, knock on wood, I hope it's Ole Miss, they're getting a future superstar. And again, that goes back to high school recruiting. Is it important? Yes, it is. Ty Keys is not in the portal. He's making his college decision out of what's going to be a very good Poplarville High School football team. You can't not get this kid from your own state. When you look at his offer sheet, it's who you think. It's a usual suspect. Florida State, Miami, Mississippi State, those are the schools that he is warm with right now, so to speak. But I'm going to tell you, you do not ever count out Ole Miss or LSU. Both of those schools ought to be listed, right up there at the top. Ty Keys is a difference maker. He's one you got to have in this class if you're going to claim ownership of the state of Mississippi. I think he's a must-get for Frank Wilson and the Ole Miss staff this year. I really do. I'm big on Ty Keys. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, he's a good little running back. The other players in the top 10 in Mississippi, what's a couple of names for us to watch out for?
I think Turner Mitchell at Louisville, Caden Moss at Jackson Academy. Mitchell, of course, is he is an edge. Caden Moss is an offensive lineman. I've had Caden for a long time through the Southern Elite Combine Series. And, just to be totally honest with you, I think he's every bit as good as everybody is kind of projecting him as. I really think I'll tell you what, I was having this conversation with some of the recruiting analysts at 365, and I said Turner Mitchell. I meant Mitchell Turner, my bad. And the conversation was this. Okay, one-on-one in a camp setting, Caden Moss versus Mitchell Turner versus Ben'Jarvius Shoemaker versus Sam Lejeune. And, the results were varying about who we thought would win. Moss did really good at a recent national camp. And that's why you've seen him shoot up the rankings and everything. Although Mitchell Turner replaced Caden Moss as number one on the composite national average rankings yesterday. But, I think all three of those guys, I like Antonio Berry. He's going to be an interior lineman. He's out of Tupelo. And then, Derwin Fields down at Brookhaven, 6'5", 220. He's got a frame. He's going to play college ball at about 6'5", 270. When he gets in that weight room, he already has the dynamics you look for in a player: fast off the ball, vicious hands. I think he's going to be a tremendous edge. I really do. And then Fred Ford, the linebacker out of the Mississippi Delta over in Greenwood, Mississippi. Again, one of those frames that you have to project, 6'5", 190. It's a heck of a hoops player as well. But, he's going to play outside linebacker or edge in college. And he really jumps out to me as well.
So, all right, Mitchell Turner, Sam Lejeune, Ben'Jarvius Shoemaker. Right now, if you had to take one, who are you taking and why?
Woo. That's tough. I'm probably, man, man, that is, and look, that question was posed to me this morning. I didn't have an answer. But, man, I'm probably taking Ben'Jarvius Shoemaker. At 6'3", 290 pounds or so, depending on what kind of lunch he had. He's so quick. His hands are so good. He's everything you want in a defensive lineman in terms of being vicious, and in terms of he can just get a mean on, Stephen. And you see it in his film where, it's 3rd and 2 for an opponent, and you're just like, Shoemaker's going to stop this, and danged if he doesn't for a 3-yard loss. He's out of a good program down at Choctaw County, rural program. They don't have the shiniest stuff, but it's a good program. Same program that produced who? Caleb Cunningham. Mm-hmm. They've produced basically 2 5-stars in the last 3 years. So they're doing something right down there at a program that, and look, I'm going to say it, because this goes back to something I was saying earlier, at a program that one would think and has traditionally been maroon and white, but it's not anymore. Just like that Louisville program we're talking about.
Tupelo,
yes. Heck yeah. Right there. And what Joe Judge said, the gap is here to all the way down here now. Ole Miss really doesn't have recruiting battles with Mississippi State. They don't. I know of one prospect in the transfer portal that literally would have crawled to Oxford, but they never picked the phone up to call him. And he ended up at Mississippi State. That he would have been here had they wanted him. That's not the realm that they're in right now. They're in the realm of getting Kewan Lacey out of the transfer portal, finding a Trinidad Chambliss out of the transfer portal, both who will be Heisman Trophy contenders in the preseason, and rightfully so. I mean, I just can't stress that, and people ask me all the time, who are we recruiting against State for? My answer is nobody. They're really nobody. I mean, let me ask you this about a kid. Ole Miss finished ranked number 3 in the country. I didn't intend for this to be a bash Mississippi State segment here, but
we will allow it.
Well, I'm just telling the truth. Okay, so Ole Miss finished number 3 in the country. State finished 5 and 8. If you've got a kid out there who is going, man, I can't decide between going to Ole Miss or going to Mississippi State, he either grew up a Bulldog, and I respect that tremendously, and just wants to play there to fulfill out a lifelong dream, or you really need to back up and ask yourself, do we really want this kid on our roster if I'm Ole Miss? Mm-hmm. If he's having trouble deciding and discerning between the two, because there's not much there to decide and discern on. And look, that's not to say Jeff Lebby or the guy who follows him, because nobody has patience anymore in college football. It's about, coach, we gave you the money, you got the team, we didn't win, you're fired. Somebody is eventually going to start playing ball down there, and they're going to eventually start to get into serious conversations. And they did a little bit in the portal this year. But, you got to be all in. This is not dip my toe in the tub kind of commitment. You got to have both feet in, and they got to be wet. And that's it. If you're not willing to spend the money, Stephen, you're not going to win a championship anymore.
All right, so when we come back, we're going to change gears a little bit and go towards spring football just a little bit with David Johnson of Ole Miss 365, so stick around for that. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night from early tip-off to late-night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board, and now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into an even bigger potential win with college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits what you are looking for. You can mix spreads, totals, player props, and match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost to the instantly bumping up the potential payout of whatever you're going after. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team that you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, and Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, and I've got my number one pick for the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. Much to the consternation of Chris Marler from Locked On Gamecock, I'm going with grape. You know why I'm going with grape? Because it doesn't matter which gas station, which convenience store, which drugstore you go into, grape is going to be there. You have that consistency. It is worthy of a number one pick. Now, I get it. There's sleepers out there like pomegranate, or if you have a sweet tooth, you can do the Confetti Craze or the Fruity Rainbow or the Cotton Candy. Or if you just want the OG, you can step back and do berry if you want to. It's all there, but I'm going with grape. I'm absolutely doing that. And, one flavor that I'd like to see made is cherry limeade. That would be pretty awesome as well. So find your favorite flavored 5-Hour Energy shots online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. All right, David. One thing that's interesting, you have all of this stuff, all of this noise that is happening, and I've been talking about it on my show, my main show, about them trying to basically steal the money from Ole Miss and all the lesser conferences trying to get in and even things out. It's not good. But for spring practice, it's going to be Trinidad Chambliss. It's going to be Kewan Lacey. What are the positions that you are most watching for over those 15 practices?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, we know what we're going to have, despite the NCAA's best efforts at quarterback. We know what we're going to have in the backfield with Kewan Lacey. Now, we've got a couple of transfers that I'm very interested in to see how they may fit in to the Rebels' plans on how to utilize Lacey and those behind him. I think tight end is a position, but most definitely the wide receivers. You've got guys coming in that, for the last couple of years, we've turned to the portal and we've found guys to replace guys. Dudes replaced dudes. And that's got to happen again this year. So I want to see the dudes emerge from the portal at the wide receiver position. Defensively, I'm going to have an eye on the secondary. I mean, they went to work, and I think they fixed it through the portal, but we'll start getting an idea of that once spring ball begins, depending on how much we're allowed to watch it. I'm worried to death about place kicker, man. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. As you pointed out, man, you're a danger to score anytime you cross the 50 with Lucas Carniero. And that to me, that's huge. That's huge. And I don't think the kid gets enough just in the national media for what he brings back to this team. Trinidad, yes. Kiwan, yes. But Lucas, the kicker, oh my goodness. I think he's the best that we've ever had at Ole Miss, and we've had some great kickers. But I don't know that there's anybody better. But those are the positions. I'm not worried about the offensive line. Look, if it was bare bones up front, John Garrison probably would have checked out. And I like John Garrison. Garrison stuck around because he knows he's got a good nucleus coming back. So I'm not really worried about that. But if I had to put all the ones I mentioned into a hat and go, this is the position that I'm most worried about, and some people are going to say I'm crazy, but it would be wide receiver. You've got to replace dudes there. And in order to do that, the guys you got from the portal have to come here and become the next wave of dudes. And there are going to be some guys that there will be some dependency on in which to help do that.
One thing that's interesting, I think the math has changed a little bit at the wide receiver position at Ole Miss because everybody's going to look. You have to replace Deshaun Stribling. I think that replacement is Caleb Cunningham. It's not even the portal. I think Caleb Cunningham has a chance to start next year, and then you have Horatio Fields and the big wide receiver that Ole Miss has had for the last 15 years. They're going to have that again. It's amazing to think of, but I do think the math has a little bit changed.
Well, the only thing with Caleb Cunningham, we all saw what he did in high school. We know what he can potentially do. There were Ole Miss fans who wanted to see him do that immediately. And obviously that didn't happen last year, partially because they didn't need him last year. Look, 7-8 years ago, Caleb Cunningham would have probably started every game as a true freshman. 1 year ago? You say 1 year ago?
No. Day one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Day one, yes, 100%. Just because you didn't see as much of him as you wanted to, don't let that worry you because there were dudes in front of him again. Once again, that word dudes. I like that idea. I like the train of thought that Caleb Cunningham is going to step up into that role this year. Physically, and I saw him the other day, he looks like an SEC wide receiver now. He'd be a first off the bus kind of guy. And that's a possibility, certainly a good possibility that he emerges. And again, Ole Miss could have gone out and gotten the next Deshaun Stribling in the portal. They didn't. And I would present to you they did not for a reason. They didn't need to. They had that guy on campus already. Great point, Steve. Listen, and I was telling you off the air, I love your insight. I love your perspective. You say you have the most listened to Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm going to tell you right now, I've been listening to podcasts ever since podcasts were invented. I was around before then. So it's also the best Ole Miss podcast out there, sincerely. I'm not just shining your boots here and all that stuff. It's the best one I've listened to, period. No matter the sport, Stephen has the perspective that you ought to be looking for as a fan. And I can tell you this now. He's absolutely blatantly honest about everything he reports, about his feelings on everything. If he weren't, we wouldn't be partnered and he wouldn't be playing on 365. This guy is the real deal. And thank you for being a part of 365, Stephen. We sincerely mean that, and we value everything you do.
All right, the check's in the mail, David, on that one. The check's in the mail. It's heading your direction. Anyway, what do you got going on at 365, man?
Thank you, man. Thank you. Listen, we got a lot of stuff going on. We've got a major announcement that could happen today. I think it is actually. We're launching a site at a second school, and I'll just go ahead. We'll announce it on here. Why not? We are about to launch at a Big 12 school, the University of Houston, as we build our network out. Of course, listen, I'm always going to be here at the Ole Miss 365 site. This is my school. I've adopted it. I've got 2 older children with multiple degrees from there. I've got a son who played football there. I've got an 11-year-old daughter who is ready to join a sorority and be out there right now. And we live about a mile from Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. So nothing's going to change on that front as we expand our network. You know, Stephen, we didn't launch to be an independent site at one school. Our inevitable plans were to become a network. And, you know, I think we've built an incredible team that's going to be able to do that. And site number 2 is at the University of Houston in Houston, Texas. And site number 3, I'll tell you this much, will be at another SEC program. Both the Houston site will be up and running by May 1st. And the yet-to-be-named SEC site, known but not named, is going to be up and running by June 1st. So we're excited about that, and we're not stopping there. I didn't get into this, and the investors and the partners I have did not get into this to just be the independent Ole Miss site. We're going nationwide, and you know, we feel like we have the ability to, particularly with our partnership with you and Locked On. You guys are incredible, as I just got through mentioned. You know, and that's why we're having all these prospect camps going on right now. We were at Olive Branch 3 weeks ago. We were at Meridian on Saturday. We will be in Cleveland, Mississippi on the 22nd. We'll be in San Antonio, Texas on March 28th. We will be in Little Rock, Arkansas on April the 11th, I believe, which is the weekend after Easter. And so on and so on. We're going to do one in Tulsa, Oklahoma, wherever we're doing. And what we're doing is we're building the database for our recruiting prospects. Every prospect that comes to one of our camps gets a recruiting profile. Now, you may not get ranked. You may be ranked a 4-star or 5-star or 2-star, but you're going to leave there knowing you're getting a recruiting profile from 365. And, you know, it's just the way we're doing it and constructing it and everything. But, yeah, so we're breaking it on here. I don't think anybody has even heard. We're launching the University of Houston on May 1st. And, man, we're excited about that. And we'll have a story that will pop up on the Ole Miss site right now because it's the only one we have. You know, we'll tell everybody what we're doing, but we really appreciate everybody. The growth has been tremendous, and man, we can't thank you enough for trusting us enough to bring you the news and information on something that's very dear to us all. I mean, look, I've been there. I mean, outside of my family and my God, it's my university, you know, family, God, country, and then Ole Miss. I get it. I know how important it is. And, we appreciate you guys allowing us to do that. And I will say this, if you will allow me to be so bold, I will never get drunk and tweet at Ole Miss fans that you're never going back to the playoffs. That's not me. That's somebody else. That you'll never get that on our site. And let me tell you this, I am a fan. I'm a fan. I love Ole Miss. I cried when we won the National Women's Golf Championship against Oklahoma State. I'm sitting there, I've got tears rolling down my eyes, and my wife's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "We just won the national championship. I can't believe it." And I'm not even going to tell you what happened when Mike Bianco and crew won theirs. I was a mess for a couple of days, and that's why we do it. And if we're going to tell you everything we know and expect you to believe it, then you need to know we're coming from a place in the heart that where your feelings are as well. So I'm a fan. I love Ole Miss. I dedicate a large part of my life to the Rebels. And, again, I'll never drunk tweet about you're never going back to the playoffs again. That's not me. I'm not going to do that. So if that's what floats your boat, by all means, go get it. But you won't get that at 365.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for stopping by, Dave, and we'll talk to you later, buddy.
Hotty Toddy.
Hotty Toddy. All right. Thanks again for tuning in today to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're going to continue to talk about football recruiting and spring practice and college baseball all week. So make sure you subscribe and follow the show so you get all of the latest episodes. We're on all of the social channels as well, so check that out. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Go get Locked On Ole Miss ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonolemmiss.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we're going to send you on over to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you check out a second listen. Either Locked On College Football or Locked On SEC would be very good as well. So, Hotty Toddy, hope everybody has a good day, and we will see you tomorrow talking about, Trinidad Chambliss, of course. Talk to you later.